And welcome everybody. We're looking at electronics, consumer electronics, probably one of the biggest areas in consumer product purchasing are electronic gizmos. And of course, number one would be uh, our phones and our music type equipment. Number two would probably be home appliances, etc. But wow, are we as a population just enamored with electronics products? And electronics products are a big part of the advertising landscape. So let's take a look at a couple of ads. We've got about 20 ads here to look at. And actually, I didn't pick the top of the top. I picked some sort of, they're good. They're pretty good ads, but they're not the best of the best. And the reason I didn't choose the best of the best is I want you guys to best these. I want you to do better than what you're seeing here. Okay, and we'll do a little critique along the way just to give you an idea of what I really like and what I think could be done better. So let's look at some headphones, shall we? Headphones. Um, Nicely done. Very shallow depth of field. I don't know what this thing is. Must be some sort of it's an amplification unit, I guess. So you run your phone through this amplifier, and then it probably has some sort of controls to make it look really great. So what the photographer's done here, the art director working together, is they've minimized the effect of the phone. We know that's a phone back there, but we don't know what kind. We're not supposed to know what kind, obviously. And we know that these are some headphones up here, but cleverly they've used depth of field to sort of obscure the headphones and just bring the attention right back to the amplifier. We've got texture and light. We've got highlights and shadows. Notice how the logo is in a prominent place here, right on the very sharpest place of the image. One of the hardest things to do, by the way, is to play with these wires that come out of the headphones or jacks of all kinds. But we got to find a way to deal with them, folks, because they're always going to be in the picture. If you cut them off, it doesn't really make any sense. So be very, very aware of the cords and cables in your shots. Next up is an Apple phone or watch or some sort of special kind of watch. Now, timepieces are unique. Timepieces are a specialty in and of themselves, but knowing how to shoot them is very, very important. So we have a photographer who's come at a very oblique angle here. And let's look at the highlights. We've got a highlight coming down gradient down to this black area here, which seems to have a bit of a highlight in it. Maybe it's optical illusion. But then the highlight picks up here. Notice the soft transitions here and here and here and all along the top sides of this. This looks like a very simple photograph, but I think it's anything but. I think it's a very difficult photograph to pull off. So keep in mind our white cards are surrounding this. I'm not really fond of light boxes. So if you have one of those things that where you just stick it in there and light the outside of it, I'm just really not fond of those. Please don't use it for this class because it's not the kind of, I mean, light boxes are great for doing eBay images and drop in pops and stuff like that, but we're trying to build something for our portfolio, so please go light on the boxes. You may not have room in your studio to do something like this, but this is a nicely done shot with a couple of exceptions, and I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like the orange highlight. I don't get it. I don't know why it's there. I love the very, very simple pastel background, but I'm not crazy about this chord and this chord being so funky different. This chord needs to be more like this chord, I would think, or maybe you want the more curvy chord. That's fine. But somehow, even though this one goes into the bass and this one goes into the top here, somehow we've got to figure out how to make those cords just work just a little bit better. Thirdly, I have no texture in the front of these guys here. I don't know if they're smooth. I don't know if there's cloth in front of them. I don't know anything about them. So I think the overall lighting is fine. I think the special lighting really needs to be added. How do we add it? Possibly a snoot from the side to give us some texture along here or along here. Maybe a couple of grids coming in at angles this way. There's as many different ways to solve it as there are photographers to solve it, but I think it needs to be solved. We don't want to put these tall speakers up there without having any idea at all of what the texture is on the front of them. Smartwatch, Apple Watch. Okay, have an Apple Watch here on a hand. Of course, they're using the subject, a person, to give the watch context. But notice how beautifully lit the watch is. Now, the hand and arm are as well, but really it's all about the watch. Right up here we have a nice highlight running down here. Smooth highlight, which means there's something down here to give us this nice lit area here. And of course, no glare on the top of the watch, so all the lighting is coming from the side. Really important distinction. There's no glare on the top of this watch, nor there should there be. Looks like possibly could even be natural light. I don't know, but it's a well done shot. Got us in close, showed us the context of the watch, and I think that's pretty clever. Speaking of clever, by the way, here's a photography, a Canon, I believe, or maybe it's an Olympus. It's an ad for a camera. Oh, it's an Olympus, which is pretty cleverly done. Got a little set here with the hand and holding the camera. Now, was this done in the studio, or was this put together by compositing techniques? I don't know. I don't care. I do like the lighting coming from the side and giving us the shadow. Without the shadow, I think that the image would appear to be too flat. So the photographer has added what looks to be like a pretty good sized softbox at a distance. We know it's at a distance because we're getting a bit of a wide area here, size-wise, but it's far enough away that it's not giving us a soft shadow. If this was for instance, a 5 foot by 6 foot softbox, and it was brought in very close, like right out of frame here, like the way so many of us shoot it, this shadow would be much smaller and very much lighter because the light would wrap around. This light is so far away it's not being allowed to wrap around, so we have dark shadows on this side, dark shadows here in the hand. The Olympus camera appears to be lit pretty well. I'm not sure that this camera was not photographed in a different spot and moved in. Reason I say that is we're getting highlights on the bottom of the camera. We've got beautiful highlight on the top. On the top here, we're seeing no shadow cast. It's possible to light that right here in this shot. It really is. It's very difficult to keep whatever the light is here from throwing a shadow of the camera down here. Because remember, this is a little bit farther away from the main light source. That being said, this shadow is lightening up here. You see how it's darker here? It comes over and gets a little bit lighter. There may be a light pulled in from this side to get a little gradient of light over here on the shadow side and a little bit darker on the lit side. Subtly done, well done photograph for sure. Let's look at a speaker shot. Probably an Illustrator file or some sort of created file to get that speaker in, but look at how beautiful the speaker is lit. We've got highlights that amplify the color of this set. And we've also got lots of detail. Apparently the whole point of this speaker is that the speaker goes all the way around, and so they put the mesh all the way around, and the photographer has made sure we know that, we see it. Nice little highlight up front, logo's perfectly lit, and then using Photoshop, etc., put into this 3D background, which is kind of wild. One more watch shot. Consumer Electronics. Look at the beautiful use of this cardboardy kind of cutout here. It's nicely done. Is it done as a composite? I don't know. Looks like this one might be sitting on top of it back there. A little bit of loss of depth of field here and clean up front here. So this little curvy piece of, I don't know, board, tile, linoleum, I don't know, plastic, is curved beautifully up here, probably held in point with clamps. Beautifully curved down here, a little bit of light falling in there, and then the light on the watch, very simply done. The light on the watch, these two soft boxes up here seem to appear to come this way. Get a little bit of highlight on this one, a little bit of highlight on this one, a little bit of highlight down here. I don't know if it was a composite. And again, that shouldn't be an issue for any of us. Does it work? Does it show the watch, and does it pull your eye in? Well, it certainly does. And these serpentine shapes all, this one framing the watch, this one leading us to the watch. Really well done. Nicely done, LG. Even though I probably will never buy another LG anything in my entire life. I might buy a Lumix though. I thought this was pretty cool. Using the very gritty background here for the Lumix. I got a beautiful light on it. But unlike many camera ads, the camera is not totally lit. There are some dark sides. There's some places on the camera where we don't see texture, like down in here. No texture in here at all. Letting the camera really sort of melt into the background, which looks like some sort of asphalt or something really gritty back there. Beautiful highlight on the lens. Beautiful highlight up here. So what is lit, of course, is the logo and the side of the camera. Nicely done, and most likely done by some type of softbox or scrim lighting up here. But beautiful. If you have a new camera and you want to shoot it, take a look at this. Go ahead and light it fully, okay? So that you get the idea of lighting the camera fully. You got the bottom part of the lens and all the sides and everything's all done. And then start taking the lights away to see what you can end up with. It might be kind of exciting to see. Nikon D4 shows us exactly what I'm talking about. This is how cameras have been lit since I started looking at cameras when I was a kid. We got a softbox or a scrim above. We got some on the sides. We've got fill cards of varying degrees all the way through here. We're seeing the texture, shapes, curves, all of it. And of course the ability to see all the different colors within the lenses, as the lenses have the coatings, etc., on them to pull and push colors aside. So we get to see this rainbow effect in here, which I think is very important. If you don't get this rainbow effect, it's fairly much a dead shot. So work very hard on it. Notice how the lens is going straight into the lens of this D4 as well. I think that's very important. Now, this is a little bit more of a drop and pop shot, but I thought it was very well done. It's a projector. It's a white projector on a white background sitting on a white surface. That's a tough one. The photographer's been very, very careful. See the dark cards? We always talk about white cards, right? See the dark cards? See the dark card back here? This photographer's been very, very careful to very nicely light this projector, keeping the tonality down enough that we know when we look at it that it's a white projector. Even though if we took our info palette right across it, it might tend to say that it's more of a gray, a very light gray one. In the context of where it is and how it's presented, it's certainly white in our understanding. A little highlight here, we can see the lens. This is so important that we see the shape of the lens and that there is something extruding out here. Beautiful highlight across the grill here, which is a feature of this little projector, I'm sure. But I thought nicely done. Simple, and yet very nicely done. A couple of ads for speakers, and notice how the speakers are placed in here. You'll have to really take a look at this maybe a little bit closer, but you'll see how the speakers are placed in here. These product setup shots are so hard to do. There's, if you get 6 speakers from Radio Shack, for instance, and try to build a shot out of them, it's very tough to do. Composition, leading lines, everything makes a difference. So beautifully done. Nicely done little insert shots here in the middle. Insert shots. So product photography can be pretty exciting like that as well. Take a look. The MacBook Pro Ultra Thin. I don't know if this looks like it's a bit of an older MacBook Pro. I don't know. I have no idea. It's an inch thin. Yeah, it's an older one. So brought the hands into it. We get to see the whole computer here. We get to see it in use, so to speak. The lighting is simple, a little on the boring side, I think, for a computer. But looking at Mac ads, you'll see that Mac ads are all shot the same way. Multiple photographers may be shooting them, but Macintosh or Apple has a specific angle, a specific point of view, camera placement, lens focusing. All of those things are set up by Apple corporate so that they keep their branding unique. This is a little bit off kilter, so that's why I included it. If you do something like this, please make it better. VR, all right. The Oculus, I think. Not a terribly great shot of the Oculus. This is a little. They're wanting to show the inside of it as well as the outside of the case here, and I think that maybe they didn't do as great a job as they should have. We do have a light above, and we do have a light on the side, but we're losing the handle back here. I would have loved to see that handle. And even though it's floating over the dark blue, letting all of this go black down here doesn't really work for me. It's boringly lit, and it's a piece of VR equipment. It should be very exciting to see this thing. Very exciting product to shoot. It's got everything we need. We've got shiny surfaces, we got handles, we got shapes and everything. Just got to do a better job than that if you choose to shoot something like the Oculus. Smartphone lens kit. Forget the background. Take a look at the way it's set up. Notice how the light makes sure that we get inside this product, that we pick up the texture of this canvas, that we get to see all of the plastic here. Look at the big, smooth, soft, liquid-like highlight on the top of that lens cap there. And the nice little highlights that give us the plastic look to the bags that are tucked in the back. Probably shot sitting on some kind of surface. Whether this table is veneered enough that we get a reflection, I don't know. Possibly. I would say it's probably shot and then dropped in. Background and all of that stuff, that's just added in Photoshop. Obviously, we, in this class, are really more interested in the product shot right up here. I thought this was kind of fun because this kind of shows you how far back the lighting for cameras go. This is the OM2. This is a film camera. This is an older ad. Nice bright background. This is the specular reflection on the background itself, which is this sort of toothy, semi-glossy black surface. So that's the round light in close behind a scrim. And then, of course, the scrim is reflecting off all of these parts of the camera, fill cards, fill light, etc., coming in and giving us all the detail on the top and the logo and all of this stuff. But product photography, that type of product photography has been around a while. And, understanding the nuances of it is very, very important. So a little bit of a historical approach. This one, not so historical, but very cleverly done. This is a Photoshop, excellent piece of Photoshopped art. Mimicking, of course, the way the lenses work on these little cameras. Nicely done. Showing off the product well enough, but giving us the concept for the product even more. Not asking you guys to do concept shots at all. Just want to show you some of the cool advertising that's out there. And like I said, I didn't pick the best stuff. I picked the stuff that was pretty good, even though in this particular case, this is a pretty darn good ad, wouldn't you say? What if you have to do some bigger things? Well, we have, interestingly enough, we have, I believe that's a lawn, that's a washer, and a refrigerator, and a TV, and a coffee maker. Now, the coffee maker is bigger than the TV, which I will never, ever understand, but I think that's a refrigerator anyway. I believe it is. But notice how the product photographers kept everything single light, using this specular up here to give some interest to these boxes. They're just boxes. I'm going to guess that this was probably all photoshopped together at some point. Wouldn't you agree? Some sort of thing, some sort of electronic thing, all shot the same way. Whether these are individuals or recolored in Photoshop, I haven't the foggiest idea. They could be exactly that, just recolored in Photoshop, or they could all be shot at the same angle. It's a matter of what does the customer want to pay for. I doubt that they were shot in a row like this, because this one's not reflecting anything of that one. And something tells me that it maybe should reflect something of this, maybe. Unless the angle of incidence is just past the one in front of it, which it could be. It could be just past it, not seeing it. But very, very capably done. Beautiful highlight across the front of the glass that tells us that there's glass there. Imagine if that highlight wasn't there, we would have no idea what's going on. It would just be this big sort of black hole with barely perceptible numbers in it. It would mean nothing to us. By adding this little sheen to it, a reflection of the softbox, or in Photoshop, it could be created right in Photoshop, but adding this little sheen really does give us a nice idea of the glass and that it is some sort of calibration tool. Calibrate something. It's got numbers on it. So, product sitting on the hand. Look at the nice gradient over here. We got nice gradient even on the grill here. And then you can, over here, as it starts to gradient off, you can see the texture in the grill, which is kind of cool. We got a nice feeling all the way through. I like this bright light back here in behind the dark part of it. And then as the unit comes over here to show this top piece of it gets a little bit darker in the back, and then we have this dimension, dark against light, light against dark. We have a lot of dimension happening in the photograph. Putting it on a hand gives it context, gives it size, gives it lots of things, but very, very nicely done, and a pretty good concept. So product photography throughout the ages has focused on texture and design. You have to think like a designer when you're creating your image, because everything has to do with texture and shape and dimension, and curves, straight lines, all of those things. You want to think as you're looking at it, how did this designer really want this toaster or this microwave oven or this set of earphones? What were they thinking of as the most important feature? If it looks like a feature, feature it. So, product photography, consumer electronics, this will be fun. See you on the show.